Everybody. I have a little free time before clinic starts. So by the way, if you wondered why I don't have 8 a.m. appointments, it's for two reasons. One is that I use this time of the morning to, I don't know, catch up on the 900 prior authorizations that are required every time I send you to speech, OT, PT, all that stuff. Answer other doctors' phone calls. And then number two is I do this here, right, this here. So that's why I start my appointments a little later. Otherwise, I'd have to take like whole half days off of clinic twice a week, and that just seems like a bad thing. So I kind of prefer this productivity model. So I want to talk today about tongue ties because I've been having a month of tongue ties. It's like tongue tie palooza. And I feel like a lot of people don't know what they are, and they cause problems, and they get missed, and then you look back when your kid is, and I'm just going to say this hypothetically, 11 years old, and realize that so much of what you went through with this baby was about how his face was made. Uh-oh. So a tongue tie. Now, I'm going to show you this. Commentary on my dental hygiene is not necessary. I did floss today. So under your tongue, you have that little thing that's called a frenulum. You also have one under your lip, right? There. That thing in the middle that holds your lip down. Some people are born with ones that are too short or too rigid. So that thing's supposed to be stretchy. Like they're supposed to be able to move all kinds of directions, and they don't always. Some kids are too short. Some kids, like up to the tip of their tongue, that whole thing is all attached to the bottom of the mouth. Some kids have a frenulum that's so thick that their lip is almost turned inside out because of the way that it's structured. So who cares? Because I don't walk around going, okay, I kind of do because I just did, but really I don't usually do that. So why do you care? Well, because look, there's people all over the world that walk around with tongue ties so it's called ankyloglossia is the official term, glossia being the tongue part and ankylo being the fixed part, the rigid part, because that tongue doesn't move. The problem is that the tongue doesn't move all the way to the roof of the mouth. And so I can open my mouth all the way and still touch the roof of my mouth. Some people can't. They can open their mouth, anything above that, and their tongue doesn't reach. Who cares? Well, a couple things. Number one, there are letters that require you to, in order to pronounce them, to, have your tongue on the roof of your mouth. S. S's are hard. SH's are hard. Even T's and D's. Start talking to yourself and think about the number of times your tongue hits the roof of your mouth, and that'll sort of give you a clue as to how much this can impact articulation and speech and just what you sound like and whether it's cool or not. People judge you on how you sound, and so for some kids this is a really big problem. The other thing you have to be able to move your tongue to the roof of your mouth in order to do is actually eat from a breast and sometimes even a bottle, but really breastfeeding is the thing that gets us into trouble. So how do you know if your baby has a tongue tie? Well, if it's really bad, you can see it because that frenulum will come all the way up to the tip of the tongue, which means the tongue makes this cute little heart shape because there's this dimple in the middle where that frenulum is really rigid. And so they stick their tongue out and it's this little heart. It's really cute. It's also really dysfunctional. So like don't think it's, oh, my kid has a heart tongue. We got to take care of that. If that's your situation, this is easy because everyone sees those and everybody knows that that's got to get clipped. We got to fix that before things get out of hand. Speech is a problem, breastfeeding is a problem. We fix those. What sometimes gets missed, though, is the tongue ties that start deeper back into the mouth, either partway down the tongue, or it's not the tip of the tongue that's restricted, it's the back of the tongue that's restricted. They're called a type 3 tongue tie or a deep tongue tie, but whatever it is, it limits the mobility of your tongue. If your tongue mobility is limited as a newborn, here's what's going to happen. Okay. Number one, oh, by the way, this goes for lip ties too. they're usually not as big of a deal, but they can be a really big problem for some babies. So if your kid has a symptomatic lip or tongue tie when they're born, you're going to notice a couple of things. Number one, breastfeeding is going to hurt. It's going to hurt. Like the kind of hurt that you like grab the chair and just, it takes your breath away for a half a second. That kind of hurt, that hurt. It's the most amazing pain you've ever felt. It's not cool. Number two, you're not going to make very much milk, because in order to make milk, the baby has to drink milk, and they don't express milk effectively because that tongue doesn't hit the roof of the mouth. They don't get as much suction as they should. And so they're going to not feed effectively, which means that your breast milk supply is going to suck. And you're going to tell yourself it's your fault. Yeah, that's going to happen. They'll make funny noises when they feed. You'll hear every suck, you can hear this little click every time they suck. Your baby should be able to latch onto the breast and hold suction and then move their tongue to express milk, but not drop suction every time. They're not sucking and letting go, sucking and letting go. They suck, and then that tongue underneath pulls milk out of the breast. If they're dropping the breast every time, if they're having that snap back and release, they are burning so many calories just eating. The other thing is that generally acceptable suck to swallow ratio is a 1 to 2 sucks per swallow. Your baby should be able to fill their mouth with breast milk in 1 to 2 sucks before they swallow. If they're sucking 3 to 4 times before they have enough to swallow, they're not expressing milk effectively. And that's not you, that's them. Like, it's not you, it's me. No, really, it's you. It's the baby. It's not mom. If these things are happening while you're breastfeeding, your child's tongue is dysfunctional. Their tongue isn't working properly. It was made in a way that just isn't real effective. And so we need to fix that, okay? By the way, these babies also have a couple of other features you should know about. They tend to be really gassy because every time they suck in air, and so they swallow air. And so then they are miserable, angry little human beings because their tummies hurt, and you can imagine why that is, right? They also don't always grow very well because they don't express breast milk into their mouths well enough to grow. And so particularly if you do not want to use formula in any way, your baby is going to have growth problems. And it's a really simple fix, okay? The lip tie thing is that when you latch on as a newborn, your lip should look like this, attached to the breast. It should literally be flipped inside out. And if it doesn't do that, then you can't get suction, you can't get a seal. So that's not real fun. Okay. That little, and that suck and release is what causes you pain, by the way. Okay, so if you can fix this problem, then your baby will be able to breastfeed. Okay. If you don't fix it, one of two things is going to happen. Either your baby is going to go on to have feeding and speech problems when they get older, or they're going to be just fine. There's a way to assess that. There's something called the Hazel-Baker assessment, which is assessing your tongue's appearance and mobility, and then based on that, we can decide if your tongue needs to be fixed. Actually, let me see if I can find it. That thing right there, you see on my bulletin board, that's the Hazel-Baker score, because I use it often enough now that I've had to actually put it up on my bulletin board, because it's like 14 points and I can't remember any of them. This is what happens when you have 3 kids. I don't remember crap. So, okay. What do you do about a tongue tie? Well, you clip it, okay? You cut that little thing underneath. That's it. There's 2 ways to do this. In our area, we kind of have 2 options. Number one is we can do it with like a surgical incision kind of a thing where there's a little tool you slide in there and then they just cut the thing and it's over. It's like a 2-minute thing. The other is that there's a laser procedure where it cuts and seals off the bleeding, cauterizes the thing at the same time. In the end, it's kind of all the same thing. The thing that I've heard a lot of, though, is a lot of hate on the laser procedure. Laser is often done by dentists, and some people have a little hate in their hearts for the dentist doing this procedure. I'm going to tell you that I don't care if you cut it or laser it, but I care who's doing it. I need somebody who does this a lot and knows what they're doing. There's a dental practice in town, so Star Kids in El Paso does them, and they do a fabulous job. Or our ENTs will do them. And we even have a couple of general pediatricians who can do them. So it's not a big deal. It's like a 5-minute thing. I say one day. It's like 5 minutes, and then your kid can eat afterward. It's amazing, and they're like a whole new kid. The question is whether to do it or not. Because we don't fix every tongue tie. Because some of these kids really go on to be fine. And if it's cosmetically, it looks weird, but they feed really well, why am I going to go cutting up their mouth? I would prefer not maybe to do that. So when do you do this? Well, number one, if they're having speech problems, if we've gotten that far and those speech problems are symptomatic of their tongue tie, think about whether that thing needs to go away, okay? Number two, I think my opinion and the opinion of some medical academies as well is that failure of breastfeeding is sufficient reason to fix a tongue tie. I also know that there are pediatricians in the world that disagree with me on that because breastfeeding is a finite amount of your childhood. However, this is a low-risk procedure, and not no risk. There's never a no-risk procedure, but it's a low-risk procedure, and the benefits of breastfeeding are pretty clear. And so if you want to breastfeed and your kid has a tongue tie, I'm going to send you to get it fixed. Even if you want to bottle feed and your kid has a tongue tie, if it's bad enough, I'm going to send you to get it fixed. You may not find that from all doctors, though. And there is this school of thought that if it's not causing serious issues, let's not subject the kid to a surgical procedure that's not necessary. So you and your doctor kind of got to negotiate what that's all about. The one thing that I would advise you is if you want to breastfeed, you need to find a doctor who understands the value of that and is willing to write you the referral you need to fix this situation. Because when they're a week old, they ain't going to remember it. When they're 6 years old, like the kid I saw last week, who's going to have his tongue repaired, and he's 6, he is going to be really unhappy because it's not fun. It does hurt. It's going to be sore for a couple days, and he's going to be really miserable. And had we fixed this when he was a little baby, maybe this wouldn't have happened, and maybe he wouldn't still be in speech therapy, right? So if any of this sounds like your kid, even if your kid's a little older now, but like that breastfeeding, that was totally my kid. Like if you hear that and you're thinking, oh, that's my baby, and you're having speech issues, talk to your pediatrician about mouth structure. Ask them to do a tongue functional assessment. If they don't know what you're talking about, you should probably find a different doctor or ask for a referral to a speech therapist. Because I personally did never recognize this in my own kid. And then, so for those of you in El Paso, if you go to Silva Clinic for your speech therapy, you will know Clarice Colbard, who's a fantastic human being, and found my son's tongue tie when he was 11 years old. I'm not kidding. And I was like, wow, I'm a terrible mom. But it all made sense now, you know? So if you're having that moment of, wow, he was a really crap breastfeeder, and I never made enough milk, and there was this thing, and now he talks funny, talk to your doctor about what you need to do about that, because this is a fixable issue, and I think it gets missed a lot. And if we can just address it, we can really save these kids a lot of pain. We can save you guys a lot of speech therapy appointments, because driving from my house down to Silva Clinic at like 5 o'clock on a Wednesday is not a good time, particularly not with 54 under construction, you know, it's a bad scene. So much of that could have probably been avoided had I recognized that he's got tongue and lip tie. Save yourself the pain that I personally didn't save myself. And if you're having problems, let me know. If you want to know where to go to get this assessed or fixed, I can give you some names of people who will help you fix your child's tongue and lip tie if that's what needs to happen. Otherwise, I hope you guys have a good week. I hope my run on tongue ties is over, because it was it was crazy. It was like 6 of them in a week or something stupid. I can't even process what just happened. I'm here. You know where I'm at. Give me a call or PM me or Facebook message me or whatever works for you guys. I will talk to you later. Bye.